Have you ever looked in a mirror and not liked what you saw? Maybe you were tired or stressed or just unhappy with yourself in that moment. It's a deeply human feeling. Now, imagine if an entire group of people became that mirror for society. For centuries, this has been the unfortunate and unjust role forced upon the Jewish people. They have been made to serve as a reflection, not of who they are, but of the anxieties, the failures, and the hidden ugliness within the societies they inhabit. When a nation feels insecure, when its people are struggling, it's often easier to shatter the mirror than to confront the unsettling image staring back. It's a deflection, a way to avoid asking the hard questions about oneself. This concept isn't just a metaphor, it's a pattern repeated throughout history. When people are content, prosperous, and confident in their own values, they rarely feel the need to point fingers. They build, they create, they coexist. But when things go wrong, when economies collapse, when political promises are broken, or when a plague sweeps the land, a desperate search for a simple explanation begins. The Jewish people, often a distinct minority with their own rich traditions and history, become an all-too-convenient target. It's a psychological shortcut. Instead of grappling with complex issues, people are told, they are the problem. This allows them to replace self-doubt with righteous anger and personal responsibility with collective blame. Think of it like this. A person who is truly at peace with themselves doesn't feel the need to put others down to feel tall. They don't need to change their neighbor or tell them how to live or hate them for being different. Their own identity is strong enough. The same is true for a healthy society. It finds strength in its diversity and resilience in its ability to self-correct. It's the societies that are sick, the ones losing their moral compass or wrestling with deep-seated hypocrisies that develop an obsession with the other. The hatred directed at the Jew is rarely about the Jew. It is almost always about the hater's own internal turmoil, projected outward for all to see. This projection turns into a dangerous narrative. The mirror doesn't just reflect, it gets blamed for the reflection. Suddenly the Jewish person is accused of possessing the very traits that the accuser fears within themselves or their own community. If a society is greedy, the Jew is labeled greedy. If a nation feels powerless, the Jew is accused of secretly pulling all the strings. It is a profound and tragic irony. The blame becomes a way to cleanse one's own conscience, to create a scapegoat that can carry the burden of a society's sins. This is the foundational trick of anti-Semitism. A trick that has been tragically effective for far too long, simply because it's easier than honest self-reflection. History shows us a clear and painful correlation. Anti-Semitism spikes when societies are in crisis. It's like a fever that signals a deeper illness within the body politic. During the Middle Ages in Europe, when the Black Death wiped out a third of the population, who was blamed? Not the lack of sanitation or scientific understanding. Instead, mobs turned on their Jewish neighbors, accusing them of poisoning the wells. This was easier than confronting the terrifying reality of a disease they could not control. They needed a human face for their fear, a villain to punish for their suffering, and the long-standing prejudice against Jews provided a ready-made script. This pattern isn't confined to the distant past. Look at Germany after World War I. The nation was humiliated, economically devastated by the Treaty of Versailles, and politically unstable. The German people felt lost and betrayed. It was in this fertile ground of national despair that Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party sowed their seeds of hatred. They crafted a powerful and poisonous lie, that Germany's problems were not the result of a lost war or economic policy, but the fault of an internal enemy, the Jews. This simplistic, hateful ideology gave Germans a target for their rage and a false sense of unity, leading to the unimaginable horror of the Holocaust. Even religious and political ideologies can be twisted to serve this purpose. Powerful groups can weaponize faith or patriotism to paint Jews as outsiders who are disloyal or morally corrupt. They take sacred texts out of context or invent conspiracy theories about global control to stir up fear and resentment among their followers. This isn't a genuine expression of faith or love for one's country, it's a calculated strategy to consolidate power. By creating a common enemy, these leaders distract from their own failings and unite people not through shared ideals, but through shared hatred. It is the ultimate perversion of both religion and politics. The core issue remains the same across time and place. A society in turmoil seeks a simple answer to complex problems. Whether it's the economic anxiety of the 1930s or the political polarization we see today, the mechanism is disturbingly familiar. When people feel that the world is spinning out of their control, that their traditions are fading, and that their future is uncertain, the temptation to find a scapegoat becomes incredibly strong. Anti-Semitism is not the cause of this societal decay, it is a symptom of it. It is the canary in the coal mine, warning us that the foundations of tolerance and reason are cracking. In fact, anti-Semitism can be compared to the mindset of narcissists and psychopaths, those who show a chilling lack of empathy. The cruelty inflicted on elderly Jews, the ease with which violence is justified, stands in stark contrast to the mercy we often show even to animals. This analogy reveals the depth of moral decay. When a society can be more merciful to animals than to its own vulnerable people, it exposes a profound sickness at its core. You might think that after the lessons of the 20th century we would have moved past such primitive hatred, but anti-Semitism is a shapeshifter. It adapts to the times. Today it doesn't always march in the streets with swastikas, though sometimes it still does. More often it cloaks itself in the language of social justice or political activism. The research is clear. Recent years have seen a terrifying surge in anti-Semitic incidents globally, fueled by extremism from the far left, the far right, and radical Islamist groups. The ancient hatred has simply found new clothes and new platforms, especially online, where misinformation spreads like wildfire. Consider the alarming trend where criticism of the State of Israel bleeds into outright anti-Semitism. While criticizing any government's policies is a legitimate part of public discourse, what we're seeing is something different. It's when Jewish people worldwide are held collectively responsible for the actions of the Israeli government. We see this in European football stadiums with chants to ban Israeli teams, or when a Jewish student on a college campus is harassed because of a conflict thousands of miles away. This is the modern version of the old trope blaming all Jews for the alleged actions of a few. It's a litmus test. When the line is crossed from policy critique to prejudice against a people, we are dealing with the same old poison in a new bottle. The examples are as recent as today's news. In August 2025, reports emerged of a nurse in the Netherlands threatening Zionist patients, a chilling echo of the idea that Jews are somehow deserving of harm. In Australia, a mass demonstration featured anti-Semitic slogans, showing how easily political protest can be hijacked by hate. In Spain, an airline served a kosher meal with a Free Palestine label, a passive-aggressive act that singles out and intimidates Jewish passengers. These are not isolated incidents. They are part of a global pattern, showing that when political tensions rise, Jewish communities are often the first to feel the heat, becoming targets for everyone's anger and frustration. This modern anti-Semitism is insidious because it often denies what it is. Perpetrators will claim they are not anti-Semitic, only anti-Zionist. But when that anti-Zionism uses classic anti-Semitic caricatures of Jews controlling the media or politics, when it calls for the destruction of the world's only Jewish state, and when it leads to attacks on synagogues and Jewish people, it is impossible to deny its true nature. It is a mutation of the virus, one that has learned to disguise itself in the language of human rights while promoting the oldest of hatreds. It demands we pay closer attention to actions, not just words. So what is the antidote? If anti-Semitism is a projection of our own societal and personal fears, then the solution must begin with introspection. It starts with the courage to look in that mirror and not smash it, but to honestly assess the reflection we see. When we feel angry or powerless about the state of the world, we must ask ourselves, what is the real source of this feeling? Is it truly the fault of an entire group of people? Or is it the result of complex economic forces, political failures, or even our own personal disappointments? Choosing the harder path of self-examination is the first step toward building a healthier, more resilient society. This is not a passive process. It requires active engagement and a commitment to empathy. It means listening to Jewish voices when they speak about their experiences with hatred. It means educating ourselves and our children about the history of anti-Semitism so we can recognize its patterns when they reappear. And it means standing up and speaking out when we see it, whether it's an offensive joke, a conspiracy theory online, or an act of vandalism against a synagogue. As Albert Einstein wisely warned, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. Inaction in the face of hatred is a form of complicity. This responsibility falls on each of us. Good, decent people do not try to change their neighbors or hate them for their beliefs. They build bridges, not walls. They seek understanding, not scapegoats. When we encounter someone who is different from us, the challenge is to meet them with curiosity and respect, not suspicion and fear. A society that persecutes a minority is a society that has lost faith in its own principles. It reveals a deep insecurity, a fear that its own values are not strong enough to withstand the presence of a different perspective or a different way of life. True strength is found in pluralism, not in forced conformity. Ultimately, the fight against anti-Semitism is a fight for the soul of society itself. It is a battle between our better angels and our worst impulses, between the desire to understand and the temptation to blame. By rejecting the easy path of scapegoating and choosing the more difficult work of self-reflection and empathy, we not only protect our Jewish friends and neighbors, but we also heal ourselves. We affirm that our communities will be defined not by who we hate, but by how we treat one another. There is only one tiny Jewish country, yet it is the only country the world has sought to demolish, despite the fact that 20% of its citizens are Muslims. Let us have the courage to face our own reflections and build a world where no one is forced to be a mirror for another's sins.